Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to my channel. Now today I've got another weekly Forex analysis for you guys. So on the screen other pairs will be analysing today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video like always, guys, because I will be going into depth analysis about what's happened during this week's trading week and potentially what could be happening during next week's trading week. So make sure you stay to the end of the video for all of that, but let's just get straight into it, guys. First up, we've got Euro USD. Okay, so first up we've got Euro USD, and as you can see for this pair, massive move to the downside this week, which was expected. Again, last week I did say if we can hold this resistance here, very critical resistance, if we can hold below that, I do expect to see a nice drop to the downside, and as you can see that's exactly what happened. And now we push past our target 1.18, this level here. We're actually closing at those lows there. So for next week, I am expecting more downside back into these lows here around the 1.17 mark, and only will be looking for short opportunities for next week for Euro USD. You can see we have closed into this support here, so not the best place to be looking to take short opportunities into some strong areas of support. So I do want to see the market retrace. So we'll be looking at this level here, 1.17900, see if we can retrace into that. And then if you can reject that, come all the way back down to 1.17, or if you do push past that back into this level here, we'll still be looking for shorting opportunities to take that back down to the downside, back down to 1.7. Either way, only looking for shorting opportunities for Euro USD. There is a chance that we could just open up bearish on Monday, Sunday evening, and then see that momentum just take us down to 1.17. And if that's the case, we'll be looking for buy opportunities around here to take that back up again. But if it does retrace, we'll be looking for short opportunities from this level here, and if you break past that, from that level there. So more downside for Euro USD next week, targeting 1.17. Next, we're going to take a look at USD JPY. And now next we're going to take a look at USD JPY. So for this pair, again, we had some nice analysis for this one last week, expecting more downside for this pair back into the lows here, which is this wick here. From the prior week, and as you can see we tapped into that, and the second target was this support here. As you can see, we just about tapped into that on Wednesday, I believe, before having a massive push to the upside. So we did see that expect to move to the downside last week, but this week we're looking quite bullish, and I'm expecting more upside for USD JPY. If you go into the weekly time frame quickly, you can see we do have this key level of resistance now turned support, so really nice resistance did actually start this whole move to the downside, and now will be turned support. And as you can see, we've seen numerous wicks into this level, and the market is now holding that as support. So I'm expecting to see a push to the upside this week back into this resistance here. We've already seen that momentum kick off from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with those three bullish candles there, but now I want to see a little bit of retracement on the lower time frames. So if I jump to the 4H, retracement to the lower time frames, come back into this level, we can hold that as support. We'll be looking for buyers to take that back up again to the 110-900 area. So more upside for USD JPY. I want to see the market retrace first. It'd be great to see if the market can come back into this level, but it might not do that. We could push to the downside, form some support high up here, and then push on, which is still a great opportunity. But we want to see the market come down, form a nice barrier of support that's failing to break through, and then from there we can look to buy and take that back up to the upside, and again targets at that 110-900 area. So more upside for USD JPY, only looking for buys for next week. And next we've got USD CAD. So now we're going to move on to USD CAD. So for this pair, we did see some nice upside to start the week off, which was expected. Very strong area of support there, 1.24500, and we were stalling there from the end of last week. So I was expecting to see some upside, and then for the market to come back down again. Was highlighting two key areas to sell from, which was this support and this resistance up here. And as you can see, we did see a nice sell-off there. However, it was short-lived. I was expecting to see USD CAD drop further back down to that support. However, it came around halfway before pushing to the upside there. Again, NFP did play a factor of that, and we're pushing to the upside, breaking past this level of resistance now. So for USD CAD, we're looking a little bit bullish here. I'm probably expecting the market to climb a little bit higher into this level here. Then from here, we'll be looking for some nice short opportunities back down into that support, and just continue that range that USD CAD was previously trading in a couple of weeks back. As you can see here, fluctuating between that resistance 1.26 and that support around 1.25400. So we'll be looking for shorts for USD CAD, but I want to see the market push to the upside a little bit more. This will be turned support now, so if the market can push to the upside a little bit more, then we'll look to sell it back down to that support. And if you can get a break of that support, now I do think the floodgates will open for USD CAD back down to these lows here, but we'll play it by ear for USD CAD. So potentially there could be some nice short-term buys off this level back up to that area. Of course, I'm not really too much of a fan of that, only looking to short USD CAD, really have that bearish bias long term. So if that's the case, I want to see if the market can come back up to this level here, then we'll short it back down just to complete that range, and then maybe if we can get a break of that, we'll look to hold into some of my positions and see if we can take that back down to 1.24500. But USD CAD for me is looking a little bit bullish, so expecting a bit more upside then from 1.26 from next week. We'll short it back down into that support there.
Up next is Euro GBP. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but if you are enjoying the content and you find it useful, make sure you go hit the subscribe button down below, and also make sure you drop a like as well. It really does help the channel out. But anyway, back to the video.
And now we're going to move on to Euro Pound. So for this pair, we saw a nice movement to the downside this week, which was expected. Again, my weekly analysis last week, I was expecting more downside for this pair. Back into this support finally after how many weeks I've been expecting to see this level get reached, probably from around up here, and as you can see, we're finally going to hit that target now. So the market is looking very, very bearish. You can see why we got that move as well. We had this trend line here, which the market's been rejected for quite some time now after that massive false breakout. We came back to retest it, and then we just saw more continuation to the downside, and also we were rejecting this price support here, now term resistance. So nice confidence there for Euro GBP, and we did see that momentum really kick off, and I'm expecting more downside now for Euro GBP for next week. We do have now support here. We also do have that trend line as well. So for me, as long as the market does stay below that trend line, I'm looking for more selling opportunities for Euro GBP to the downside, and targets are now at 0.84. If I go in the monthly time frame, you can see we are looking quite bearish here. We rejected that resistance really, really well, and I just think we're going to come back and retest this support here and just continue that range, and that support is 0.84. So I'm expecting more downside long term, so that's why I'm expecting 0.84 to be reached. So I think only sells for now to that 0.84 level. From there, we might be seeing some upside. But yeah, Euro GBP, more sells to the downside. I want to see some retrace back into that area there. So you can see much clearer on the 4H, retrace back to here. Or if we go back into the trend line, that's even great as well. As long as we stay below that trend line, more sells back down to 0.84.
Okay, so up next, we've got AUD USD.
And next up, we've got AUD USD. So for this pair, a little bit more consolidation slash pullback happening this week. I was expecting more downside for the USD, and I still am expecting more downside for this pair, but it looks like it hasn't quite finished with its retracement just yet. The level which I'm looking to for price to reject is the 0.74200 level, price support, now term resistance. So just a simple break and retest really, and as you can see, we're still rejecting that level from last week into this week as well. So I'm still expecting more downside for AUD back down into these lows here, 0.73, and maybe even further as well if you can really see the bears take control. Now as you can see, we did reject that quite nicely last week, and we came back again this week, and we're still rejecting that same area. So I'm still looking at the same area of resistance here on the 4H. As you can see, nice resistance across here, support across there. Want to see if price can come back, retracement into this level, and then we'll look to sell back down into 0.73, back down into these lows. So hopefully, with a lot of pairs, a lot of USD pairs setting themselves with that NFP news that we had on Friday, hopefully you can finally see the momentum to the downside, finally break out this consolidation and this pullback, and see the momentum and kick off to the downside. So for next week, waiting for price to retrace to the upside. Maybe great to go and test this trend line here as well, just connecting those wicks there. Maybe test that trend line for a fourth time, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then yeah, we can see some nice momentum to the downside. As long as we stay below 0.74200, basically only looking for sales back down into 0.73.
Now let's take a look at NZD CAD.
And next up, we've got NZD CAD. So as you can see for this pair, massive move to the upside to start the week off. I was actually expecting to see the market sell off a little bit more to the downside this week, expecting to see a push back down into these lows. However, as you can see, the market wanted to have one more test of this key level of resistance. As you can see, we failed to break above this, failed to get a daily close above 1, 2, 3, now a fourth time. So I'm expecting more downside for NZD CAD coming into next week. Again, if you go in the weekly time frame here, you can see we do have price support here, now term resistance. So again, support here, broke through bit of a false break there, and now we're holding that as resistance. So I'm expecting more downside for this week. We do have some nice targets for the daily chart, again rejecting that area, but if we do get above this area actually next week, I will change my bias and expect to see a break up to the upside. But as of right now, looking at the price action, we're staying below quite nicely, so I'm expecting more downside. First target was here, but as you can see, you kind of reached that target. But if you can break through that, I'm expecting to see the market come back to this double bottom here, test it once, second time, now expecting a third time if we can break through this price support and price resistance, now turn support. So more downside for this week for NZD CAD. For any opportunities, probably want to see the market retrace back into that level there, trade it back down into that support, and if you can get a break of that back into that support around the 0.87 mark. So more downside for NZD CAD as long as we can stay below that resistance, don't get a daily close above it. More downside back into this support, which we're kind of really tapping into. So I want to see some retracement to the upside first, look for the market to turn bearish again, then we'll sell it back into that same support, and if you can get a break of that, we'll take it back down into these lows here around the 0.87 mark.
Next up, we've got GBP NZD.
And now we're going to move on to pound NZD. So as you can see for this pair, quite an aggressive move to the downside this week. Again, we were expecting to see some retracement to the downside. The market overall is still quite a bullish market, a little bit choppy, but it is the bullish market. I was expecting to see the market to push back down and retest this prior resistance here, now as support at 1.98. And as you can see, we actually pushed through that level. So the market's kind of focusing on this trend line here. As you can see, multiple tests of this trend line, 1, 2, 3, 4, still failing to get a daily close below that. So I think as long as we do stay above this trend line, I'm expecting the market to squeeze between this resistance here and that trend line. So I'm expecting the market to fluctuate something like this until we do get a breakout either past that resistance and simply just see the market, come back for a retest and just continue to trend bullish. Or if you do break through this trend line, we might be looking at a bigger retracement or potentially a reversal. And if we do that, we do have some nice areas the market could potentially come to, that support there, that support there. So potentially more downside if we do break through that trend line, but for now, as you can see, we are respecting that. So I'm expecting a little bit more upside again to start the week off for pound NZD back up into this resistance around the 1.99400 mark. Then from here again, we can look to sell the market back down to that trend line. So just playing the market, playing the resistance and that trend line, and waiting for the breakout either to the upside or to the downside, just to work out our long-term bias.
Next, we're going to move on to CAD JPY.
Okay, so next up we've got CAD JPY. So for this pair, I was looking for a nice movement to the downside this week, which we did get from this resistance here and psychological level of 88. We were rejecting that quite nicely coming into the week and was expecting just to see the market collapse to the downside. As you can see, that's exactly what happened there for CAD JPY. First target was 87,200, smashed into that, and if you can break and retest that and push on from that, I was expecting to see a push back down to 86,200. However, as you can see, it was short-lived. We closed back above and saw a rally to the upside there. So for this week, I'm expecting more of the same, back to the downside again, as long as we stay below this 88 key level. I'm expecting to move back down into 86,200, which is this key area of support. False break there, now expecting to see a nice test of that area. So for next week, expecting to see some nice selling opportunities. Again, first target does have to be this 87,200 mark, because we have been showing respect to this level quite significantly. So expecting a push back down to that level as the first target, but this time if you can get a break, hold beneath it, I'm expecting to see a test of that 86,200. So only looking for shorts for next week for CAD JPY, as long as we stay below that 88 level. Looks like we're getting a little bit of a head and shoulders here as well. There's the left shoulder, the head, potential right shoulder, looking for a nice collapse to the downside there. So more sells for CAD JPY next week, as long as we stay below 88. First target will be this 87,200 mark, and the second target will be this 86,200 mark.
Up next is GBP USD.
Okay, so on my screen now I've got pound to USD. So for this pair, I was expecting to see a move to the downside this week, and as you can see, not much has actually happened. We've kind of just been moving sideways. So my bias hasn't really changed from last week. I'm still expecting that move to the downside happen, and as you can see, we are forming some nice resistance here, which we are failing to break through. So I think as long as we stay below that area around 1.39400, we'll be looking for retracement and then take it back down to the downside. As for targets, we do have this nice daily area of support, which I was looking at last week and I'm still looking at again this week, around the 1.38 area. So this will be the first target, and if you can break through that support there, then this will be the second target. support, false break, coming for a retest of that. So more downside for next week for pound USD. Again, like I said, as long as we stay below this 1.39400 mark, we'll look for some retracement to start the week off. Don't really want to take a sell with that momentum there. I want to see the market retrace healthily, and then we're back down into this area here. And again, if you can break through that, back down into that area there.
And next we're going to see what's happening with GBP CAD.
Okay, so next up we've got pound JPY. So for this pair, I was expecting to see a push to the downside from this key level here around the 153 mark, nice area of resistance, and give us a move to the downside. If I jump in the 4H, you can see that's exactly what happened. A nice move to the downside there, pretty much early on in the week, Monday, Tuesday, and then rest of the week we did see some nice consolidation and a breakout to the upside. But for me, pound JPY is still below that key level of resistance 153, and also still below this key level, key trend line actually, which is just providing some nice resistance going through the market there. As you can see, we had multiple wicks into the same area, so I'm expecting to see another drive back into the downside, back into that support there. And if we can break through that support into this daily level down here, so we'll be looking for short opportunities again for pound JPY, just to take that back down again, back down into this support. And if you can get a break of that support, waiting for the retest and take it back down into 149,800. If price, however, does break through that trend line and break through 153, so we see a nice strong daily close above that, then we might be breaking to the upside. We can look to target some of these levels up here, but for now, as I'm speaking, price action is failing to break through that, so I want to see a nice depletion back down to that support, and if you can break through that into the 149,500 down there.
Okay, up next we've got GBP JPY.
And next up we've got pound CAD. So for this pair, I was expecting to see a drive to the upside to start the week off, and as you can see, we did exactly have that. Nice support there, big push to the upside. We kind of broke through that a little bit, but essentially we did hold that support and gave us a nice push to the upside. I was expecting the market to turn bearish sooner than it did. However, we did see a push into this resistance. The market did reject it and started falling back down again. So the market for me is in a little bit tricky situation. It's kind of got a strong key level of resistance and a strong key level of support. It's respecting both of them. And I need to see one of these levels get taken out to get a clearer idea of where I do expect pound CAD to go in the near future. If we can take out this resistance, start holding as support, then I do expect an uptrend to start continuing and push into this wick here, and probably even give us some higher highs past that. And if you can take out this support, I do expect to see another dump to the downside, potentially a bit of a reversal, and see a push into this wick down there. But for now, we're kind of just stuck between these two areas, so probably going to expect another drive to the downside for pound CAD and probably another swing back up again. But if we can have that breakout, then like I said, a push back down to that wick, or break up to the upside, a push up to that wick there. So for pound CAD to start the week off, can we look for some buys up there, but I'll probably be waiting for that breakout and that retest, either at that resistance there or at that support there.
And up next, we're going to take a look at gold.
And now I'm going to move on to gold. So for this pair, massive move to the downside this week, and NFP did play quite a big part there. I was treating this as consolidation and expecting us to break to the upside this week. However, as you can see, we actually broke to the downside there after a bit of a false move early on in the week. As you can see, nice big push to the upside, big push back down again, very textbook false move there. Normally after that, you do expect to see the market move in the opposite direction. Then the NFP really did play a part on that break to the downside, so we are looking very, very bearish here now for gold. I'm going to be expecting more downside, especially with all that momentum that we just saw from Friday there. So we do have this wick here, which is that low, and I am expecting that to be violated to see a new low past that, and also targets will be at this support here. So I'm expecting more downside to the 1735 area. Want to see some retracement now. We do have some prior resistance here, will be term resistance there again. So if you can see some retracement to the upside, back into that level instead of back down into those wicks, or into that wick there to form that low, then into that support there, that would be great. But again, we are so bearish here that we might not even retrace to that level. We could do something like this where we push to the upside, form some resistance that we failed to break through, and then from there we can sell it to the downside with the market failing to break through that resistance. So do watch out for some price action like that, similar to what we had here. We formed some nice resistance, then had another collapse to the downside, so something like that could form again. But it would be great to see a pushback into that resistance, reject it, and then again the risk reward would be much greater as well. Sell it back down into that wick there and back down into that support. Either way, only looking to short gold for next week, waiting for a bit of retracement, and we'll take it back down to that 750 mark, then a push past that into 1735 down there.
And last but not least, we've got Bitcoin.
And last up, we've got Bitcoin. So as you can see for this pair, massive move to the upside we're having so far. More upside this week, which was expected after a little bit of retrace. But again, I still do expect to see Bitcoin retrace back to the downside again and turn bearish, form another lower, major lower high, and come back down to this 30,000 mark here. Very key level of support here. So I'm expecting to see either one of these two levels hold Bitcoin, either this level here, 44,000, nice area of support, now turn resistance, or this support around the 48/49,000 mark, turn resistance, support, turn resistance, and send that back down to that that level down there. So massive sales could be happening for Bitcoin. If you do break through both these levels, then I probably will change my bias, but so far I'm still below, so I do have that bearish bias there. So can be looking for some nice selling opportunities at this level here. So far haven't had much price action there, so nothing really to sell yet for Bitcoin. But if you do turn bearish there, massive sell off could be happening to the downside, or if you do remain bullish and break through that level into that 49,000 48,000 mark, then again we'll be looking for sales to take that back down into 30,000 all the way down there.
Okay, so that is the end of the video, guys. Hope you all enjoyed that and found that useful. Like always, if you have any questions, agree or disagree with my analysis, let me know. Drop it down in the comments and I'll make sure I get back to you guys. If you did enjoy that, hit the like button, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button as well. But thanks guys for watching the video, and I will catch you guys on the next one.